Bethany Warren here, and you've joined us for the weekly Our Millwall fan show with the Millwall No One Likes Us Talking team, which is broadcast every Friday evening. Enjoy!
Welcome back to the 21-22 series of Millwall No One Likes Us Talking's Our Millwall fan show in the 6th show in our new Freedom post-lockdown. I'm your host, Henry Morgan, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Bethany Warren, Debbie Julians, George Lampey, and with us tonight, panellist, guest, Millwall IFollows, Karl Bates.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
So, if we're all sitting comfortably, especially you, Karl, 3 points last Saturday at the Den against Blackpool. Hello, Debbie. Love to get your thoughts on that result.
Yeah, it was a good result in the end. Blackpool had a man sent off after 15 minutes.
Rightly so.
Millwall never seems to play very well against 10 men. Maybe it's the expectation that is high and the other team are more defensive. Our Jake Cooper went forward upfield to score, and then their counter-attack happened and they ended up scoring. Luckily, we equalised quite quickly. Jed Wallace, long-range free kick. Indeed. We scored at the end of the game to win the match, and that was Jake Cooper with a header. So everyone went home happy. They wouldn't have been very happy if we'd equalised against 10 players. The transfers as well, which is shame about Romeo going to Portsmouth, but luckily Sheyi Ojo is coming back with us, so from Liverpool. So Neil Harris signed him on loan last year, and he worked when he worked for Cardiff, so that's good.
Yeah, he's got a bit of pedigree there. So, an important 3 points. Bethany, good evening. Lots of grumbling in the Dockers stands at half-time, but what was your take on the Blackpool game?
Frustrating, obviously, at the first half because, like we just said, Millwall don't play well against 10 men, but we are a better side, and they had 10 men. We should have done better than we did, but can't complain because I always say, and my dad's always brought me up to say, a win's a win. If you win ugly, you've still won. It's okay. And Jake's goal was just fantastic. I keep back. It was just beautiful. It was just what we needed. We really needed this win to just to lift our spirits a little bit, because the start of the season's not been the best of starts. So it's nice that we're actually on the scorecard now.
Indeed. No, I think a lot of people echo that. George, when I met up with a couple of my compadres in the Windsor after the game, somebody said to me, we just needed a win. Do you agree with that sort of sentiment? Did we just need a win, or does the manner in which we go about it actually matter at this stage in the season?
Well, I think first things first, yes, I think we seriously did need to win that game Saturday. Yeah. I think the manner that you go about most wins, I know a lot of people say, as long as you win, you win. But I like, as a paying customer, I like to see my team play nicely. And I thought Saturday we played very well. I met some people afterwards we went home with some people from the West Stand.
Yes.
And they said to me that they thought it was a terrible game. On our side, we thought it was a smashing game. I thought we were passing nicely. All right, we had Smith up front, so we were putting crosses in. Obviously that would be the tactic. And I think we must have put at least 20 crosses in that match. So, and I thought they were good crosses. We never got very far with most of them, but at least they were going in. And I thought it was a good performance all round. And as Bethany says, we all went home happy because of the win. But I couldn't understand how people were saying it was, a poor performance from us. I didn't think so on this occasion.
No, George, I'm very much in your camp on that. Karl, when we look back at these opening fixtures, QPR away, difficult game. Blackburn, we don't ever seem to beat them home or away anymore. Cardiff, we seem to always get a draw there. Fulham, well, we haven't beaten them for years. Is this actually not a bad opening 5 points?
I wouldn't necessarily say 5 points is not necessarily bad. I'm sure Gary will be disappointed to perhaps not have defeated Blackburn being a goal up.
Yeah.
And against Cardiff, it's fine margins, isn't it? Malone's shot goes in off the underside of the bar. Suddenly it's 2-2. Millwall are in the ascendancy. The Cardiff fans were getting nervous at the time. And who knows, it may not have been a point. It could even have been 3. So there's definitely positives to be taken then. But you go on the sort of negative, I suppose, and you look at the 3 goals against Cardiff. It was incredible watching the Millwall side be so fragile just to basic balls into the centre.
Indeed.
But as it's been alluded to before, I think the 3 points against against Blackpool was massive. And credit to Blackpool, I thought they were more attacking than Blackburn were, despite only having 10 men. I mean, their goal itself was an incredible run from
Shane Lowry,
the winger, and then Lowry's determination on the end of it. And there was a bit of nerves, I think, needing that first win, knowing going into the international break, if Blackpool had held on, Millwall would be in the relegation zone with this break, which would have been a disaster. But I thought, alluded to, as you say, Matt Smith starting the game and us putting a lot of crosses into the box. I personally felt we needed to mix it up a bit more, because a team down to 10 men, you're looking at, say, Richard Keogh, for example, he's an experienced defender. He's got no legs in him. So if we're just putting general balls into the centre with 10 men, we're going to be easier to play against, whilst if perhaps chop and change allow the likes of Jed to run at them from deep, or Conor Mahoney when he came on, playing like that, I think would have caused them more problems. But it's getting over the line. No one's going to remember in February, March time how Millwall defeated Blackpool 2-1. They needed the win. They've got it. You've got to give the lads credit. They kept going right until the death. And another 2 tough games coming up. If you look at the fixture list at the start, as you reeled off a minute ago, you'd be like, that's going to be a tough start.
Tough start, tough start to the season.
Yeah, and it's West Brom and Swansea next. So that 3 points against Blackpool becomes more and more important the longer you read the fixture list.
No, indeed. Well, I think very well summarised by everyone there. Before we break, you may remember that in 2021, Lions fan Dean Brown and Steve Rendell were set to run the London Landmarks Half Marathon in aid of Dean's son, Harvey, who's now 11. But the event was cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the absence of the race, Dean and Steve's intention is still to do the run prior to the Sky Bet Championship fixture at home to Coventry City on Saturday the 18th of September, with the duo and Harvey walking around the perimeter of the pitch at half-time to complete their goal. Can you, if you're able, make donations on Just Giving so that they can raise as much money as possible? All you need to do is to type in Just Giving Dean Brown 20 into your browser, and you can make a donation. No matter how big or small that is, they will be gratefully received. And with that, we'll take a break there and listen to Patricia Maslin talking IFollow.
Remember Karl Bates crashing off his chair at Carrow Road? And the commentaries that he and Max McLennan gave throughout the pandemic? Well, IFollow gives you all that and the inside track on our club, with a range of benefits including live match video streams if you live outside the United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland. Live audio commentary and exclusive club content is available everywhere. Sign up today to get closer to the action. And don't forget, at least 80% of IFollow net revenue goes straight to our club. It's a great way to show your support. A basic package is free and the audio pass starts from $4.49 a month. Go to Millwall's website and select IFollow to subscribe.
I'm Henry Morgan and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Bethany Warren, Debbie Julians, George Lampey and Millwall IFollows Karl Bates. IFollow is a great way to support Millwall, with the largest proportion of the revenue returning to the club, whether you listen to either the audio stream or if you live outside the UK and the Republic of Ireland by watching the live video stream. Our guest panellist tonight is no stranger to the show, having given his early, mid and end of season thoughts to our listeners for a few years now. We won't dwell on his countdown fame and the jealousy of Jeff Burnage over Rachel Riley. We'd all be jealous, I think. We admire his sharing of personal experiences with epilepsy to raise awareness and understanding of the condition. Lastly, we thank Karl and co-host Max McLennan for keeping us entertained throughout lockdown with their streaming commentaries of all the Millwall games. So, Karl, before I let you off to the panel who have many questions for you, can you let the listeners know how long it took you to get Max to stop calling our keeper Bill Okowski?
To be fair, I didn't have to tell him. He worked it out for himself. No, Max does a really good job, actually. And sometimes I think you've got so many things going on in your mind that you do get your words tangled slightly. And to be fair, with Bart's last name, I've heard him pronounced so many different ways. I think Bill Okowski will have, compared to Mahlon Romeo, which is said way too often. I think Bill Okowski's fine by me.
Romeo. That always makes me laugh. Hi, Karl. It's Bethany. It's lovely to talk to you again.
Oh, thank you.
My dad and I thoroughly enjoyed what Max and you delivered throughout the pandemic through our widescreen and the audio. So thank you for that. And also thank you for falling off your chair. It made us laugh so much.
That's all I heard. When I came back, when the fans come back, I just happened to be walking to the food hub just to give in some shower gels, toothpastes, etc. And nearly everybody that actually recognised me, first thing they said, "Oh, when you fell off your chair at Norwich." Not "Hello, Karl." Straight in. "Oh, that was so funny when you went flying." And this. So yeah, I think that's my tagline now. I think countdown's a secondary thing now. I think it is purely the guy that fell off the chair at Norwich.
Well, what would you say has given you the most entertaining display since you've been a Millwall commentator?
Good question. Entertaining display. I think last season overall, I think some of Scott Malone's goals were breathtaking, and it was such a shame that there wasn't fans there to see them. And also, I don't know, like for example, you really miss the fans. I mean, when Evans scores that late header against Luton, you got fans there. With the angle we had, we were right behind him. There would have been the Millwall fans there. It makes a goal like that so much more special. You're looking at a similarity, I suppose, between Cooper's header against Sheffield United. It would have had that sort of level of celebrations behind the goal. But I suppose if I could I suppose you've got Millwall Everton as an obvious answer with Murray Wallace's goal, although how close was he to the perfect hat-trick? So, I don't know, it's tough. I'd probably still go back to the Sheffield United Cooper's equaliser at the end, because Millwall were in a bad place that season, heading, unfortunately, in the wrong direction very quickly, and that just gave the team some belief and to kick on from there. And again, we had a great view of the goal. So that would be my favourite game.
Hi, Karl, it's Debbie here.
Hello.
After our opening draw at Queen's Park Rangers, what did you expect against Blackpool Rovers? Was it any different from how it turned out?
I wouldn't necessarily. I expected it to be a tight, cagey game. You look at Tony Mowbray as a manager; he's not going to bring a side with four strikers and try and simply outscore you. He's a very organised, well-structured manager, quite similar to Gary, to be fair. So I thought it'd be a very tactical game. The disappointment, as we've seen throughout the season, and it's really surprising, is to be a goal up or to let in so many conceded goals from set pieces. I mean, if you look at, say, for example, the Blackburn equaliser, the Cambridge United goal, the first Aidan Flint goal, they were practically identical. It was a good ball in from the wing and three unmarked headers, which is just, I think it was Millwall last season conceded 4 headers through the entire season. We've conceded 5 already. So I don't know if that coincides with Sean Hutchinson's injury, because I'd imagine in training, I know at various levels, you would have somebody specifically that would be the one who organises it. He'd be the one that, right, it's my job to organise the team. You go there, you go here, you go here. And so if there's somebody else trying to do that, maybe the cohesion isn't as good, and hopefully the fragility will disappear in time. But no, I think against Blackburn, it was always going to be a tough game. And yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was a good header from Brereton Diaz, but disappointing definitely from a Millwall point of view.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Karl. George here. Actually, you've answered half my question already, actually. We've hardly ever conceded an headed goals, but you mentioned Blackburn, Cardiff, and then Cambridge. Do you think our defence is been caught out? Or teams of clubs have worked us out defensive-wise?
I wouldn't necessarily say worked Millwall out. I think the problem can be the mental side of things. If you've got a weakness or you're struggling with a certain aspect of your game, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, I'm off to the cricket in a few days. But if you've got that sort of mindset with a batsman or a footballer, if there's something that you're getting caught out with a couple of times, it will play on your mind. If you're doing whatever that is very well, then it becomes almost second nature. But you can overanalyze things. And I'd imagine Gary and the defence will be going through, right, we must stop this, we must stop this, we must stop this. But the more you think about it, the more almost you cause yourself just as many problems. And I think it will just be a case of Millwall getting back to basics, a couple of clean sheets on the spin, and then I'm sure that mental strength will come back again. Because you don't become a bad defensive side overnight. We've still got very, very good defenders. So I think it's just a case of by hook or by crook, getting a clean sheet somewhere and then building from that. Hopefully a positive result against West Brom or Swansea will help rectify the issue at the moment. Because it is a concern. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, Karl, thank you so very much for that initial, for those initial thoughts on our current performance. We'll be back talking with you after our next guest, who played for England and was a Millwall star. But first, we will take a break there and listen to the man that can walk and sing, amongst many other things, Barry Stradling.
Hello, my name's Barry Stradling. I'm a Millwall fan all my entire life. I'm doing the London Memory Walk to try and raise some money for the Alzheimer's Society. I'm doing this because I've got close friends with Alzheimer's and I've got a family relation with Alzheimer's. So if you could help me out by going to justgiving.com, fundraising Barry Stradling, and try and raise as much money as possible. If you can donate some money and also share the link to people to try and get everyone involved in this, to try and help people suffer from Alzheimer's.
I'm Henry Morgan, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, Debbie Julians, George Lampey and Millwall IFollows Karl Bates. If you can help Barry, he'll be most grateful. He's promised to sing one of his most soulful tunes to the individual who makes the largest donation. So you wouldn't want to miss that, trust me. It's now time for us to welcome one of Millwall's record breakers. He joined the Lions after having played for Chelmsford City on 176 occasions for a fee of £2,000. He did not take long to become our first team regular and stopper, racking up a massive 380 appearances for the Lions between 1967 and 1975. He was also called up to the England squad, for whom he played whilst with us. He left us as we dropped into the third tier for top flight Coventry City for more than 25 times the £2,000 we paid for him. 31 games later with the Sky Blues, his football career came to an end through injury. He managed FK Jev, Harsted, Tinset, Rendalen, Kongelsberg, all in Norway. I mean, I'm going to get some hate mail for the pronunciation of some of those. And Falkenberg in Sweden. He worked with Tottenham Hotspur, Aston Villa and Everton, where he was until 2017. He lives now in Kongsberg, Norway. It's my pleasure to welcome, and there's a lot of debate about Millwall legends, but you absolutely cannot get away from the fact that we are speaking to the one and only Bryan King. Bryan, welcome to the show this evening.
Thank you, and good evening to you.
Hi, Bryan.
Hello.
Who's that? Who was that? Pat?
Debbie Julians.
Oh, Debbie. Hello.
Hello.
I've never met you, but I met your dad.
I think we have met.
Have we?
Yeah.
Oh, go on then.
Yeah, I was a teenager, I believe. But
Oh, blimey. Don't get me into trouble here, for God's sake. You know,
my dad was always there. So.
He was a good man, your dad, and a very, very good centre forward, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really was.
Means a lot. Thank you.
Unfortunately, he left. The summer I joined was the summer he left.
I know. 67. Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Well, yes and no. It only seems like yesterday, really, doesn't it?
Well, somebody reminded me when Millwall played Blackpool, it was 54 years ago that I made my debut against Blackpool.
Gosh.
So I'm glad to see that they went one better than we did on the night I played against Blackpool anyway. So
I think we're all thankful, to be fair. Yeah, Jesus. Look, Bryan, before I let you off with the panel, look, we were saddened to hear of the passing of a close friend of yours and former Millwall player Robbie Cook on the 7th of August. And we remembered him on the show that followed that. Can you share some brief memories that you held of Robbie and from your own relationship with him?
Yeah, well, I've been working at Tottenham, and I finished my scouting job at Tottenham, and within a couple of days, Robbie was on the phone. He was working for Everton, and he asked me if I'd like to do the same job in Scandinavia and Northern Europe. So I went over and met him and David Moyes, and I worked with Robbie then for 8 years. He's a lovely fella, great humour, loves a laugh. Mind you, he did love a drink, but he was a proper football man. And yesterday was his funeral, and I know Linda, his wife, and there were quite a few prominent guests there, so I've heard it. Ian Atkins was talking to me this morning. He said that David Moyes and Stuart Pearson, a few from West Ham, Barry Fry was there, and family and friends. So I can only think that Robbie was only a year at Millwall, but he could score a goal, and he'd done that at Brentford, he'd done it at Peterborough, and also Cambridge United, I think. But he was a good man, a football man. Shocked that he passed away so quickly after his illness, and I just wish his family all the best and love. So there we go.
Well, they're up there talking football, that's for sure.
That's for sure. There's enough of them up there and all, and good men they are too.
Yep. All cheering Millwall on, looking down.
Well,
obviously it's Debbie here, Brian.
Yeah. Hi, Debs.
Hi. You had a full career in your football after your playing career, which is something that not all players achieve. My own dad, as you know, Len Julians, went on for many years coaching and managing abroad, and finally worked with Tottenham. His most enduring memories, though, were all about his playing days with Millwall and the fans. What memories do you hold dearest?
Well, I must admit, coming from an Essex club like Chelmsford City, who were made up of old professionals, good, solid old professionals. When I look at the players that were there, I mean, one who was very prominent was Peter Shreves, who went on to manage Tottenham, and I know Peter's not so well now, but
oh, really?
Yeah, he's got that dreaded old age problem of either, I think it's dementia or Alzheimer's that have crept into him.
Yeah.
But I played against him with a lot of good pros, and when I got the chance and somebody said I might go to Mill, I just like to tell you it was $4,500 actually. It weren't $2,000. Come on now.
We're underselling you, Bright, aren't we?
I'm telling you, I've been undersold quite a few times. Thank you very much.
That's come from Eamon, Brian. I just want to distance myself from that statistic, sir. I'll definitely, I'll be sure to fact check going forward. I'm very sorry.
But no, please don't be sorry. But I can remember when somebody said that Millwall were interested, Spurs were interested in Portsmouth, and I think Newcastle at the time. And funnily enough, at the game where Benny Fenton was, after the game, Kenny Jones come up.
Really? Yeah.
Who played with your dad, of course. And, And he said to me, along with Shrewsbury, look, forget Tottenham, because they've just signed a young kid called Pat Jennings, and good job I did forget Tottenham, because I don't think I've ever got a game. But Newcastle and Portsmouth, no, I didn't fancy going up north or that far south. So then I looked at the Millwall situation, and Kenny said to me, great atmosphere, great club, special atmosphere. You can either handle it, or you'll be out on your backside inside a month. And when I arrived at the Den, I must admit it was a traditional football ground, if not the most luxurious football ground. It had great history, and as you rightly said, I was lucky enough. I joined in July, and by September I made my first team debut against Northampton in the League Cup, and in October, of course, I made my league debut. And I'll never forget that night. I think it was between 18,000 and 19,000 there. Blackpool were top of the league. And I got wind I was playing about an hour and a half before the game, really, because my dear friend Laurie Leslie was injured. Luckily for me, Laurie was injury prone, but what a great goalkeeper! What a great goalkeeper he was. I mean, he's one of the bravest men I've ever seen. And that night was magical for me because I made my league debut, and we managed to get a point off the league leaders. And it's funny though that about 11 years later, a fellow who played for Blackpool was Gordon Milne, and he signed me for Coventry. Strange things happen in football, and that was one of them. But just every game I played at Millwall was an honour. To play in front of them fans and for them to accept me after a bit of a shaky start, after the great goalkeepers we'd had at Millwall, Alex Stepney and Laurie Leslie, and then this kid comes from Chelmsford, and all of a sudden I'm thrust in amongst one of the most hostile crowds in the country. But I don't know, I wasn't going to give in. I knew I could do it if I was given the chance, and the fans, the club, the staff, they give me the chance, and as I say, the rest is history, and I'm just honoured to have played for Millwall Football Club.
Oh, that's lovely. Hi Brian, it's Bethany.
Hiya.
So I'm just a young woman, and my Millwall memories just go back to the turn of the century. But despite that, I know exactly who you are through views shared on social media, our matchday programmes, and by my dad. So also we had Derek Smethurst on recently, and he reflected on what a special group of players he joined, and you were amongst his teammates. So beyond your manager, Benny Fenton, who was the man or who were the men that held the team together?
Well, when I first joined, it was obviously the senior players, John Gilchrist, Kenny Jones, Laurie, Billy Neal, and I joined with two people who I'd played against when I was at Chelmsford in the Metropolitan League, and that was Derek Posse and Keith Weller. And of course, as we know, Keith Weller became probably one of the great players in Millwall's history, if not the greatest player in Millwall's history. But that's another debate. But when we got to the 71-72 team, we were practically all leaders, to be fair, and we all had good experience. I suppose that Dennis Burnett, myself, Barry Bridges, Barry Kitchener, Alan Dorney, we were all thrown in there, and we all stood one another's corner. And that's what made the team as solid as it was that year. And I don't think anybody could be more unlucky than we were that year. But Spads was, he joined us from a flash club, Chelsea, but he was all right. South African boy. He was good fun. Mixed in well. And I think that was the recipe for our team in that year. And certainly the times I was there. When you look at our back four and myself, I mean, Kitch played over 200 games consecutive, Alan Dorney 190, I played 180. Whoa. I mean, we never missed a game, 4 or 5 seasons. Nowadays, if you get a tap on the head, it's 6 weeks before you can play again. I can't see the difference. I read somewhere that a goalkeeper is not one of those who's subject to maybe getting dementia through football. Well, I can assure you, if you get a kick in the head in 1967 or in 1974, it's relatively the same. And the only difference was now you don't play for 6 weeks. In my day, if you were lucky, you got 2 days. But no, we were all leaders. Let's say we were all leaders, and we were all good lads.
Lovely.
Hello, Brian. George here.
Hello, George.
Before I ask you my question, I just want to tell you that yesterday on the TV was the big match revisited. And
Listen,
you were on with that kipper tie of yours and them great big.
I never had a tie on. I never had a tie on, by the way. No, but them collars on them shirts, if the wind got up, they'd bat your face, wouldn't they?
You wouldn't have had to make a diving save with them, would you? They would have took you around the block, wouldn't they?
I believe the term was you've been collared. But no, somebody. It's funny enough. I've had about 5 or 6 people. I spoke to John Gregory this morning, and he said, "Great save, King." He thought he could have held it, but no, I didn't see it because we haven't seen it over here. But somebody sent me a couple of videos. My daughter did. She said, "Your hair's changed colour, Dad." But I mean, and then my son said, "Cool, I don't half look like you." And I said, "Yeah, you wish you do."
Right, I'll get back to my question. Right, we know you held England World Cup winning goalkeeper Gordon Banks in high esteem, but how did you come to be called up for the England squad?
Well, to start with, England played Young England at Highbury, and I always put it down that we were handy at the time to bring in because of a couple of people had pulled out. But Gordon Borland, who was a secretary, called me and Keith Weller in and said that we had to report over to Highbury Friday lunchtime, and we went over and we played for Young England against England at Highbury. I think it was about 24,000, 25,000. I mean, that was a World Cup winning team then, really, that we played against. Yeah. We had some good players in our team. I mean, Lenny Badger, Johnny Hollins, Keith, Martin Chivers, Peter Osgood, Terry Cooper, John Sissons. I mean, that wasn't a bad side. And that was my first introduction to mixing with England players and stuff. But the first call-up was, just trying to think it was against, but again, I had to report to the White's Hotel in Marble Arch there. And, I mean, walking into the hotel and seeing who's in the room having a coffee and a tea there, and I'm thinking, good God, you know, is this real or what? I'm Bobby Moore and Martin Peters and Jeff Hurst and Banksy and Bethany. I mean, it was magical, really. And you know, I didn't sit on the bench that night. I was up in the stand, but it was just the 3 days I spent with them, and then I got called up a couple of times again for the under-23s, and then I played against Gibraltar and Malta for England, and that was when me and Banksy. I mean, we had some good fun now. I mean, Alf could be very funny as well as being very strict, as you might say. But no, it was a great thrill, and to pull that England jumper on, I can assure you, it's you don't want to take it off. And now I look at it, I've got a couple here. My missus says to me, "How did you get it on?" I said, "It's been washed. She's washed it too hot."
Oh yeah, that's good.
Hi Brian, I'm Karl. I commentate on Millwall's IFollow.
Okay.
Thinking about goalkeepers in your day to say goalkeepers now, how would you compare their skills and abilities? Perhaps considering your good old friend Gordon Banks and current England goalkeeper Jordan Pickford, for example, or something that you might like to say specifically. What are the differences really between the two?
Well, I think the biggest difference is, of course, the back pass rule. When it was first introduced, when I started playing, you picked the ball up and the centre forward could clump you. I mean, they could come in and barge you. And there was a few in that league that would barge you as well. But today you have to be very good with your feet. But most of it, when I played, I used to play up front at least a couple of days a week, just in case. This was Benny's theory, just in case you got injured. And we never had so many subs in those days, of course. And if you couldn't continue in goal, you might have to play out. So that was his way of thinking. But I used to enjoy playing out. But the thing is, today with goalkeepers, they can't play without gloves. They cannot play without gloves due to the coating on the ball. Yep. Whereas in our day, bit of spit, bit of Wrigley's chewing gum and a bit of dirt, and there you go. The fact that you were handling medicine balls in my day, I mean...
Oh, Christ, yeah.
I mean, you can't believe how some of these guys have headed balls in training and in matches, and then they start wondering why they've got these problems with dementia, or so they say it's related to dementia. But I don't fancy Jordan Pickford, to be honest. I think he's got no real presence. Mm-hmm. He's a great kicker of the ball, and he's a decent shot stopper. But controlling his box, he does nothing for me at all. Nothing for me at all. Where Banksy was a great positioner, I used to think I was good coming for crosses. You see goalkeepers today, they let themselves get boxed in. I always used to try to keep that little bit of distance between Alan Dorney, Burnett and Kitch, so I had that space to run into, because the last thing you wanted to do was clump Kitch or Alan Dorney. I think I've done it
probably
once.
Probably club your back, I should think.
Well, the thing is, as I say, it's like trying to jump over a 10-foot brick wall, isn't it? You ain't going to do it. But I remember I hit Kitch up in Sunderland once from a long throw. I come out and hit him and punched him on the back of his head. And I will not repeat on air exactly what the words were he said to me, but I can assure you. So in general, I would say that personally, I think there's a shortage of good English goalkeepers in this country as we speak. In my day, there was, 10, 12? I mean, you could, once you started the list, it was blimey. For me, it was Peter Springett, Ron Springett, Phil Parks, Pete Bonetti, Gordon Banks, Colin McDonald, Shilton, Clements, Corrigan. I mean, it just went on and on. And Jim Montgomery. I mean, all very, very good goalkeepers. And I look at the list today and I'm thinking, dear me, for somebody to control the back and show us that confidence, I just shake my head looking at the list of goalkeepers. I wasn't at Everton when they brought in Pickford, but I don't know. I wouldn't have spent all 30 million he cost.
Yeah, a lot of money. Just very quickly, Brian, you mentioned about how you used to play on pitch in case you were short. Who was the sub keeper if you got injured? Who was one of the outfield players that fancied themselves between the sticks?
Well, Kitch, he always thought he was a goalkeeper.
Was he any good?
I told him on many occasions he was ugly enough to be a goalkeeper. So he was. No, but there was him, Keith Weller. Keith Weller went a bad goalkeeper actually, but I would have said maybe Kitch should have gone in there and tried to stop it best way he could. He used to like doing it in training. He used to finish up with a few shots and diving about. He did. It was like an oak tree falling over.
George here again, Brian. We're trying to locate Brian Brown. A good number of the listeners have asked us about him, and hopefully he'll turn up soon. But what are your recollections of Brian?
Brandy joined us from Chelsea. Young fullback. A very, very underrated footballer, Brian was, I'll tell you. Great striker of the ball. Strong. He was my lift when I used to go back home, whether it was to Chelmsford or to Stansted. Used to get in Brandy Spitfire. He had a little Triumph Spitfire. And he always dropped me off at Aldgate or Liverpool Street. Sometimes we went and had a light ale or a shandy before I ventured home. But he's a good lad, Brian. I'd love to see him again. I lost track when I think he had a pub on the Isle of Dogs. But since then, I've heard nothing at all from him. But he was my best man actually at my wedding.
Oh, blimey! And
if I remember rightly, I was his as well. Dan, he married a girl from Bath, and we were good mates. And he stepped in as a deputy best man for me because my mate at Chelmsford, Pete Collins, was playing for Tottenham. He was on tour with Tottenham and he got back quite late in the evening, and so Brownie stepped in, top hat, tails, he done the job as he did as a right fullback. He was a good player, mate.
Good player. He was a good player. Yeah.
Legs like oak trees, weren't they? God, he was a strong boy, mate. He was.
He was. Yeah.
We have seen your book, released in the middle of the pandemic. It is full of brilliant stories, but one that caught my eye was about the tracksuit bottoms and Benny Fenton not having any of it. It was against Aston Villa in the midwinter, I think. Well, you tell me the story.
Well, you know that we used to train over at Deptford Park.
Yes, yeah, I drove past it the other day. Yeah.
Well, that's the only time I could use them was at Deptford Park because of the red grass over there. But we played Aston Villa one year at New Year's Day at Villa Park, and it was rock hard. I mean, there'd been a severe frost, and I'd gone out on the pitch. I was talking to Jimmy Coombs, the other goalkeeper, and he said, "Of course, the old tracksuits today, mate." So I said, "Be all right for you." So he said, "Well, you've got to wear them." So anyway, I went back in, and dear old Jack was there, Jack Blackman. I said, "Jack, what about tracksuit bottoms?" Oh, he said, "You better ask the governor." So I didn't have to ask him because he'd heard me talking to Jack. "What do you want about, son?" He said, I said, "Well, it's rock hard out there, Ben." So he said to me, "Listen, son, let me tell you a story. You'll be putting them tracksuit bottoms on. We'll be attacking. You'll be stood on the edge of the 18-yard line. And before you know where you are, you'll go to sleep, son, because you'll be all nice and warm in them tracksuit bottoms." and he said, "Listen, Vaseline, knees and hips, get out there and do it." That was, and that I think is the difference between my day and today.
People wearing gloves in the middle of September. Yeah, I think you could be right there, Brian.
Well.
So, Brian, you're due in the UK soon, Eamon tells us. What are your plans while you're over here?
Well, I'm going to see family and some friends. I've got an uncle who's not very well at all. I'm going to go down. He lives in Wootton Bassett. I'm going to go and see him. Obviously, I'm going to see my family and stuff. And I've got a thing to do at Chelmsford City. And then I've been asked if I'm going to do, I don't know whether it's a competitor of yours, but is it Wall Talk or something?
Oh, yeah.
Wall Talk. And
Nice.
I've been talking with Eamon because apparently I'm going to be doing the Millwall Coventry game. And then we're going to try and mix in with maybe some book signings because, as you might be aware, I brought a book out this year.
Indeed.
So this will be the first chance I will probably have of having the book introduced at the Den. I need the money, folks. I need the money.
Put the advertisement in, Brian. That's it.
Well, the Lions King is about, and let's see if we can get a few people to buy it as well.
Well, look, brilliant as ever, Brian. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you at the Den, hopefully, and maybe I can get a signed copy of your book and have a chat or something. So, look, have a good journey over, fella. All the best to you and yours.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'd look forward to seeing you all down at the Den at some stage. And
goodbye. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Cheers, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Brian.
Yeah. Goodbye to all of you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, look. So that for me, like those of us who haven't, there are so many memories of Brian contained in his book, The Lions King, which is available from Little Held Books. You'll find them online. You do not want to miss it, trust me. Anyway, we'll take a break there before we conclude our evening talk with Karl about the season ahead. But first, here is what Fantastic Fanatics can do for our Millwall Community Trust with a little help from Millwall fans.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon, and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club, and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing, and you can win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm Henry Morgan, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, Debbie Julians, George Lampey, and Millwall IFollows Karl Bates. It's well worth purchasing items through Fantastic Fanatics website and rewarding the Millwall Community Trust with donations.
So, Carl, one of the questions that is posed by fans, and I very much agree, is the idea that we defend far too deep and then take an extraordinarily long time to move forward. What's your take on that?
Good question, first of all. It's, I suppose, Millwall's strength has been defending. You know, you look at Hutchinson, Cooper, Murray Wallace. Clean sheets is what we built our season on, really, last time round. And I think we're almost caught in a rock and a hard place, because when we've had Jed, Mason, Bennett when he was fit, pushing on, Matt Smith coming on as an impact sub most of the time, we've looked good in patches. But I think the problem has been when we have pushed forward too much, we've been left open to the counter. And in the middle of the park, we don't have the quickest of players. And I think Gary's naturally very hesitant of trying to bomb forwards, because sometimes, especially when you've got Scott Malone down the left and, say, Danny McNamara down the right, their job is to push on, and it's a real big task of theirs. They're almost, I suppose the modern day wingback, their jobs are just as important, if not more important, going forwards. And therefore, the holding midfielders do tend to sit in. And so if Danny and Scott are up against, say, two attacking players, we're very limited on where we can go. And let's face it, we're on a small budget. You know, if you look through the transfer deadline signings by other clubs, the difference in financially is massive. It's absolutely huge. And I think sometimes we've just got to try and play to your strengths, and you are, I suppose, hitting on the counter. I don't know. It's tough. It's frustrating. I'm sure we'd like to all see more, should we say, attacking football and more cutthroat. But I think if we try to take somebody on almost in a basketball format, let's face it, I mean, you look at Fulham, obviously totally the other end of the scale. They run rings around us. And that's not been disrespectful to Millwall. I think everybody that watched that game, 2-1 was a farce. If Afobe takes that chance and ends up 2-2, we're about to call the police. That would have been absolute robbery. And I think if we opened ourselves up too much, other teams would look as good as Fulham, even though they're not. Fulham are a great side. We could have played any formation, any style. Fulham would win. But I think if we played too open, a lot of teams that aren't as good as Fulham would look as good as Fulham. So I think at the moment that's the best way. But I think it's an exciting signing, Sheyi Ojo, and I think he will give us another dimension, whether that will be a change in formation and Jed comes inside playing behind a front two, or maybe that's what Gary's got in line for Sheyi. I don't know. Mason Bennett, I think, is quite a big loss. I think he was doing well.
Yes.
So, the good thing is there is attacking options now. It's not, right, we're stuck with these players, we'll have to play it, and Millwall are predictable. We have got strength in depth. And so, it'll be interesting to see now with an extra attacking player, are Millwall going to change their formation, at least at home? I think away it's an absolute nailed on that we'll play with the back three, but maybe at home for certain games, maybe go more on the front foot and play an extra attacking player. I hope that answered the question. I did tend to waffle and disappear on the different levels there. I'm sure somewhere in there that made sense.
Hi, it's Debbie here. I watched George Long in goal for us against Cambridge United with interest, and I must say I was impressed by his handling and agility. Mm-hmm. Cambridge by no means gave up on that game against us, and I felt Long showed he might well challenge Bart. What's your take on our goalkeeper?
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's something that Gary's wanted is more competition. That's no disrespect to Frank Fielding, Ryan Sanford, or anybody like that. And I think George Long's a very good signing and will push Bart. As you say, there was 3 or 4 saves in the second half. If Cambridge had scored any of those chances, that really was game on. They were in the ascendancy for a good 10, 15 minutes of that second half. And he pulled off, as you said, probably 3 or 4 really, really good saves. Mm-hmm. And I think with Bart, he's not getting any younger. He did come to Millwall with those knee problems. Thankfully, he's been incredibly consistent and has been pretty much the man between the sticks for a couple of seasons now. But there will be a time and a place where Bart is going to start creaking a bit. And I think it will give the defence and team more confidence with somebody like George Long behind them, who they know through his time at Hull has experience in the Championship. You have that bit of confidence. And as we've seen already, he's a really good shot stopper. So I think it's a nice problem to have. And if Bart was injured, George would, I think, sort of fit in seamlessly.
Yeah, thank you.
Georgia, Carl, considering our league position to date, many of our fans are a bit downbeat and expected a bit more impact and points by now. How do you see our season panning out from here on in, and what needs to improve, do you think, for us to make up lost ground?
I think it's a case, personally, of trying to look at the league table with your head more than your heart. I think if we'd have looked at the fixture list, say stone cold, if you were somebody from a purely worked on statistics, wasn't a Millwall fan, just looked purely at the teams Millwall are playing, their record, the stature of the opponents, etc., you would expect Millwall to have been beaten by Fulham. You'd expect it to have been a tough game against QPR. You'd have expected at best a draw against Cardiff. So, yes, they were disappointing results against Blackburn. Yes, they have been disappointing, the goals that Millwall have conceded. But this is getting horrible fixtures out of the way. I know that's not going to help anybody, especially if Millwall, say, pick up 1 point from West Brom and Swansea. But the good thing is, get these fixtures out of the way. If Millwall pick up a win in either of those games, say take 4 points from West Brom and Swansea, suddenly the league table looks a lot rosier and people think, well, actually, we've played X, Y and Z and we've come out of this fairly unscathed. It's we're mid-table now and things are on the up. But I mean, obviously I get why it's people are feeling downbeat, anybody that travelled to Cardiff. I mean, when the third goal went in, me and Max just couldn't even speak. The header, the ball sort of almost went in with an apology. It was just like, I'm really sorry. As it just looped into the net, and it was just, it was horrible. I mean, me and Max were getting a lot of stick from the Cardiff fans behind us. I've no idea what we'd done to offend them, but you'd imagine we were getting some serious verbal abuse from behind us. It was quite not scary, but it was surprising, I think is probably the best way of describing it. I've been given some stick in the past, but they were really at us. The whole of our media team, whether that was people pitchside or ourselves in the commentary area. So when that third goal went in, they sure let us know about it. But no, it was a very disappointing day, and I can totally understand anybody that went to that, why they'd feel downbeat.
Thanks, Carl. I'm particularly sad to see Mahlon go to Portsmouth. But what do you make of our new signing on loan from Liverpool, Sheyi Ojo? And will Gary Rowett expect that to be the final part of this season's jigsaw, or do you think there might be some more bits to cut out and put in?
Yes, in regards, Mahlon obviously been at the club a long time. I think Jed Wallace tweeted about their relationship down the right-hand side. It was telepathic at times.
Very good.
And but Mahlon, I'm sure, will be the first to admit that he has suffered form-wise. This season sort of tailed off towards the end, hence why McNamara's come in and took his chance with aplomb. I think Danny's been fantastic for the Lions. And I should imagine Mahlon wants to play first-team football, and he can see that his chances at Millwall are going to be fairly limited now. I think it's Danny McNamara's shirt to lose, shall we say. And it's a shame, but, time moves on. He doesn't owe the club anything. He's been a great servant for Millwall, and I'm sure most people wish him well. As for Sheyi coming in, I think it's an exciting signing in the fact that at Cardiff he did very well. The statistics lined up. Cardiff, a very good side. He's been brought up at Liverpool, which can only be a good thing. And he's going to be he is very technically able. And I think the most interesting thing will be where he plays. Because if you think about Millwall, if you're playing, say, a 5-2-3 or I don't know whether you want to call it 3-5-2, where does he fit in? Does Gary see him as a potential striker where Jed's playing at the moment? Because obviously Jed isn't a natural striker, although his goal scoring ratio tells you otherwise. So I think it'd be really, really interesting, especially when Mason's fit as well.
Yes.
And, a lot of people are calling for Conor Mahoney to get more game time. Personally, and this is only me personally, I think the jury's out on Conor. I think the ability's there. I've seen him in close quarters behind closed doors playing matches, and the skill is there, that is in abundance. He has a lot of it, but does he bring it to the table enough when we're in the middle of a match? That, unfortunately, for me personally, I think there's room for improvement. If he can get it right, fantastic player, stick him in the team. You ain't shifting him. But I think he's still got a little bit more to give, and especially now Ojo's in there. You're going to look at, say, Ojo, a fit Mason Bennett, a fit Jed Wallace. Does Connor push into that side, maybe with the change in formation? But yeah, I think formation and where Ojo fits into the jigsaw will be really, really interesting in the next couple of weeks.
Well, thank you very much. Very good. We'll take a break there and listen to Bethany Warren describing a most helpful app.
Hi, Bethany Warren here. Millwall Lionesses have partnered with international smartphone application Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an application that truly benefits the poor of sight and the blind, but is supported by those of us that can see.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available number.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Correct image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Download the app onto your smartphone now and help those that need your eyes straight away.
I am Henry Morgan. I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking team of Bethany Warren, Debbie Julians, George Lampey and Millwall IFollows Karl Bates. It's a great app. Download it and you can really help others.
People continue to lose their lives to this dreadful virus, or as a consequence, suffer with it. As deaths and infections continue and high numbers are hospitalised too, our thoughts go out to their families, friends and those that take care of them. Additionally, please respect the requirements of transport and other locations in reducing risk of infection, and also the preference of individuals to protect themselves. Good night.
First of all, let's hear from Harvey Brown.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? It is now located in the Millwall Community Trust car park. That's beside Millwall's Den in Ballina Road. That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
As Harvey said, they need support and you can help by making a one-off or regular monetary donation online at Banquet, that is BANKUET, or on Saturday you can make donations pre-match at the hub about 50 metres down from the Lions store. Alternatively, you could also contact their team via their Twitter and Facebook sites. Good night.
Next week, Henry returns again on Friday at 8 p.m. to host the two Bond lookalikes, often seen exchanging items in Thamesmead car parks. Along with the man who did take Millwall to the top flight, Jeff Burnage, Stan Godwin and Ted Robinson, so from a pair of premium Bonds on a panel to game changers. The Proper Blokes Club has amassed an incredible following, and their walks take on some fantastic strolls. On September the 11th, it's a Saturday, and we're at West Brom. Now, if you don't go to the Hawthorns, why not join the blokes on a trip from Brighton to Bognor? Come along and join Scott Johnson in breaking the stigma of men's mental health with walk and talk groups. There are regular walks from familiar locations. Just check out the Proper Blokes Club on Twitter and Facebook for arrangements. Good night.
Don't forget, players' sponsorship for the Lionesses is still available this season. Why not share the burden between a few of you, or maybe a couple of companies could get together? You can give them some added support. You can find details of their website. Just put Millwall Lionesses into your browser and you'll find them easy enough. Lastly, the Lionesses are still recruiting at the moment. If anybody's interested in coming down to St Paul's Salter Road Rotherhithe, please email recruitment@millwall-lionesses.com. I repeat that, recruitment@millwall-lionesses.com. I direct message either their Twitter or Instagram account at Millwall_LFC. And don't forget the Millwall Romans need you too. Go along on Wednesday nights at 7:30 to St Paul's Ground and introduce yourself to player manager Paul Loading to find out about playing for them. And he's a lovely fellow and would welcome everybody. Good night, everybody, and stay safe.
Lastly, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Don't forget you'll be able to listen to the No One Likes Us Talking team bringing reports from our games both home and away and updates on Millwall community matters too on Maritime Radio, broadcasting on 96.5 FM. That's it from me. Thanks Karl, Bethany, Debbie and George. Until next time, why not listen to the first of the new Millwall No One Likes Us Talking monthly podcasts. Links are on our social media sites and all popular podcast sites. Good night all.
Good night.